All right. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's 3:03. I'm sorry I'm late. I ran out of time, or I ran out of time. I lost track of time because I was actually working on my social media content and I got inspired and I didn't realize how much time had passed. So in a few weeks, you will read whatever it is that I wrote this morning or this afternoon. Hi. I'm super excited to be here today. I can't wait to talk about intuition and clarity. And this is going to be a very different conversation for those of you who've heard me talk about intuition before. I have a different slant on it today. It's not a different opinion. It's not going to contradict anything else I've said before, but I have a very different way of, it's just a different slant. It's something different and new to think about. So stay with me, bear with me. If you've, I'm just going to check the text so I can see you guys' comments, see your comments. Stay with me if you feel like you've heard me talk about this, because I'm not going to really be talking about stuff that I've talked about before today. So very excited about that because I think, I talk about intuition a lot. I talk about finding clarity a lot. And that's not to say that it's not important. It's very important. That's why I'm talking about it for the 400th time. But today's way of looking at it it's just different. It's just different. So bear with me here for another minute and then we will jump in. I've got a couple of announcements and I'm just going to go in here. If you're live, please say hi. Let me know that you're here. Let me say hi back. And also, as always, if you're here live, please comment, say hi, ask me questions, disagree with me, ask for some coaching around this topic. If you're catching me live, you get that benefit of catching me live. I always create space in these lives. I do have topics and I have like thoughts and notes and an outline about what I want to talk about, but I also create space for whatever it is that the group has, brings back to me. So let this be an interactive experience if you would like. Okay. All right, so we are definitely live. I see there's definitely a delay. So if you've already commented and it takes me a minute to answer your question, this is why. There's definitely a delay, but we will get to it. So intuition, well, actually, before I start with intuition and clarity, I want to make just a couple of announcements. First off, next week is our monthly intuitive reading. So I always channel intuitive guidance for your business on the last Wednesday of every month. So every Wednesday I go live here at this time here in the group. But on the last Wednesday of every month, I do a live reading. So please try to join me live. It's 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern. Everybody who joins has an opportunity to ask a question. I get through as many questions as I possibly can in an hour. I always go for a full hour. Excuse me. And lately, I haven't been able to get to all the questions because this is just becoming such a popular event. And I'm so thrilled with that because the energy in this group and on these live events are just so fantastic. And if you can't make it live, or if I don't get to your question, what inevitably happens every single time is that I will channel something, and my guides work with me on this. I try to be as efficient as I can so that each message that comes through is not just meant for one person. So anyone who's asking a question is actually doing the group and the community a favor by asking their question, because more than the person asking the question needs to hear the answer. And I always find several tidbits for myself as well in these calls. So, sorry, I want to make sure that you guys can hear me and I've got a fan on me. So if you can't make it live, if you are able to come live, but I can't get to your question, this is not one of those experiences where you just miss out, okay? The replay and the ability to be on live is absolutely worthwhile. In fact, if you're struggling with anything, I highly recommend going back. I do these every single month. I've done these every single month for over a year, maybe a year and a half now. So there's like 12 to 18 of these live intuitive readings, monthly readings. I think I used to even do them twice a month, where you can go and listen and kind of steep yourself in high vibe energy. First off, just the energetics alone of these readings are really, really powerful. So catch the replay, go listen to an old one. Anything that you're struggling with your business, I guarantee you, if you set the intention to come in and listen, you will find a nugget or a tidbit that is meant for you and your business, because it meets the right listener at the right time. Okay, so they are not moments in time, they are timeless pieces of guidance. And it's truly my honor, and I have a freaking blast doing it. That's why I do it so much. So please, please, please take me up on this offer. Take advantage of this opportunity every last Wednesday of the month. Okay, so that's next week's live. I am also adding a member to my team. I have a VA who I've been working with for about 6 or 7 months now, but she's also been managing my social media and all my creative stuff. And we are promoting her into a new role, which really just means letting her own the role that she's been doing. She's really been running my social media and being my VA. And it's time to just bring on somebody else to do the VA, the virtual assistant piece, the admin piece, all the details, all the small tasks. We really, really, really need somebody to come and support us, come and balance us out. She and I are both big picture thinkers, creative people. We can do the detail, but it's not our specialty. We need somebody whose specialty is details. And details in terms of, tracking little tasks, tracking things that we as a team need to be working through, but also somebody who can just come in and like fine tune things for us, help us proofread our posts, be a second set of eyes on some things. So there's a lot of opportunities of places where this person can add value, and a lot of opportunity for growth. As I said, Amy has been doing 2 roles for a little while. There's a lot of opportunity for this role to become an OBM, for this role to become something else, to be able to grow into more, even more support with social media, although there's a good bit of social media support already built into this role. But Amy does all my graphics. I do all the copy. So the big pieces of social media are taken care of, but there is such an opportunity to grow with us and to help us grow. So if you're interested in working on a team, that you will be the 3rd person on the team, or if you know an amazing VA, I'm ready. I'm ready to welcome this person on. We are ready to pass off some tasks from both my plate and Amy's plate to make this business run even more like a well-oiled machine. We've already got it working really beautifully and really streamlined, but adding a 3rd person will just help us take this business to the next level, and frankly, help both of us to be freed up to do more of what we're really, really, really good at, and to stop doing the stuff that we're not really, really good at, and to bring on someone who's really, really good at the details and the admin tasks and the small things that are just as important as what one might consider the big things, because without the small stuff, you can't get to the big stuff. So if you know an amazing VA, please recommend this person, send them my way, send me a DM, get us in touch. I will post the link. I have a full job description on my website. I've already posted it here in the group a couple times, but if you can't find it, let me know and I'll post it here before as I close this call. Okay, if you're live, say hi. I don't see any comments, but that doesn't mean that you haven't tried to comment yet. Let me just see if I can look really quickly, because I want to say hi to whoever's on, my little friends. Okay, I'm not finding us right now. Okay, if you're live, say hi. Let me know that you're here. In a moment, hopefully I will be able to see the comments. And I can reply. Let's see. Facebook is so weird. Okay. I do see that I'm live. I just don't see the comments. So maybe there aren't any. Nope, there are. Here we go. Hi, Priyanka. Hi, Lori. Love, 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 love you guys for being on. Thank you so much. Okay, yay. All right, so I do have now, I can see your comments. So please comment. If you know a VA, if you are a VA, please get in touch with me. And if you don't already have the reading on your calendar for next Wednesday, please join us. Same time, same place, next Wednesday. All right, so today we're talking again about intuition and clarity, and this is a different slant. This isn't the same old conversation on intuition and clarity that we've had before. So get ready to open your mind and get ready to challenge me if you disagree with me. I'm curious about it, but I think there's something around particularly clarity that I want to offer a fresh perspective on, or just remind you of something that you probably already know. But I think sometimes when we push ourselves to have clarity, that's a little bit what I want to talk about today. Sometimes when we push ourselves to have clarity, it actually creates the opposite effect. Okay, so first off, just a little bit of, thank you for the hearts, a little bit of a reminder. The way that I look at intuition, I am an intuitive, and I use that skill, which I believe it's something that we all have. So for those of you who are like, oh, that person's an intuitive, you know, they know stuff I don't know. Okay, well, that's just a skill and a muscle that I've flexed and worked on and developed. I've taken time. Yes, I am naturally, I have always been intuitive my whole life. And that, you know, just like we all have different skills and talents, that's always been a thing that's sort of been at the forefront of my special gifts and talents. But it doesn't mean, like, let's say you're really, really good at math. Okay, I'm not, but I can do math, right? So I still have a math skill set within. It's just not something that I spend a lot of time exercising my brain around, right? I could get a lot better if I spent the time and energy around it. I just don't. So just like math, why is that my example today? I don't know. Just like math, we all have an intuition. I like to call it an inner knowing, because I think that is less, for people who think they're not intuitive, I think that's a less dramatic way to say it, and a less woo-woo way to say it, right? An intuition is simply an inner knowing. We all have an inner knowing. We all know, even if we don't feel like we're able to access it all the time, right? Even if we don't feel like we're being channels. I personally think everybody's channeling, everybody's connected to the beyond, to the spiritual, to the universe, to our higher selves, however you want to look at that. I think we're all channels. I'm not the only intuitive here in this group. I think we're all channels. We're all intuitive. It's just a matter of how much time and energy and effort and skills and natural abilities is going into the mix. But it's something that anyone and everyone can do. Anyone and everyone has. You have an inner knowing, right? Just kind of like saying you have a soul. You have an inner knowing. And I would argue that we all have had moments in our lives, and definitely moments in our businesses, where we just knew something was right. We just knew, right? Whether it's the romantic partner, or whether you're married or whatever, but like romantic partnerships, I think, are great examples of sometimes you just know that you're not a good fit with somebody. And you also just know, like, I'm supposed to be with this person, whether it's just right now or forever. I'm supposed to be with this person, right? And I actually prefer meant to be instead of supposed to be, but there's always, sometimes I think with relationship, right? And think about like the old school, like people just say, you just know when you know, right? You know when you know a whole lot of shit, right? When you started this business, I bet there was something in your heart, in your soul that just said, this is where we're going now. I just know this is what I'm going to do now, what I need to do now, what I must do now, what I feel called to do now, whatever it is, right? We all have moments in our lives where we make decisions or we set off on a specific path, to change jobs, to move to a new location, to start a relationship, to end a relationship, to hire a coach, to work on something, to go to therapy, to start a business, to get a pet. I just got a new pet a month ago, and I knew. I didn't know how, I didn't know all the details. I just intuitively knew this was my animal, right? So we all have an inner knowing. Part of what I teach my clients to do is to work more deeply with that inner knowing, to cultivate that inner knowing, and I work with people who are intuitive, but it's just easier when you have someone walking you through processes, having someone to bounce ideas off of, to help you talk through and think through what is your inner knowing telling you right now. And that's a lot of what my gift is to help you make the right decisions for your business. Not because I can tell you what the right business decision is. I absolutely give advice to my clients, and I have guidance that comes in intuitively for my clients and all of the above. But the biggest thing that I do with my clients is I help them along their entrepreneurial path make decisions that make sense for them, make decisions with a clear head, right? This clarity thing that we're talking about, make decisions not from a space of fear, but from a space of clarity, from a space of what they're looking to create, from a space of strategy, right? It's very easy to make decisions based on our fears. And so again, this is something that we all have. But what I find a lot of times in business, and this is partly why I have a job, and I find this for myself too, I have my own business coach, is sometimes it's hard to trust your intuition when you're in business. Sometimes it's hard to trust your intuition around business decisions, business actions, business tasks, business activities. Why? I got a few ideas. One is, I think, for those of us who are new to running a business, whatever new means, right? If it's not something you've done before, and I always like to say, right, as your entrepreneurial journey progresses over time, you could be in business for 15 years, but every time you hit a new level, every time you create a new offer, every time you start to do something a little bit different, you're doing something you've never done before. When we do something we've never done before, even if it's just a level of something we've never done before, or a variation on something that we've never done before, we start to doubt ourselves just naturally. Oh, well, I've never done this. Well, I don't have experience. This shit isn't on my resume, so I don't know how to do it. And mostly that's not true, but also I would argue everything in life is kind of sort of something you've never done before, because you could be serving, you could have a business where you serve the same type of people all the time, but every single time you have a new client, you're doing something that you've never done before, even though it's the same kind of thing and you're maybe not changing your offer, and maybe you're not, but each person is different. Each person is different. So every day is different, right? Every day is different. So you're always doing something you've never done before, really. But I think we have this, there's a mindset around, particularly in North American culture, where like you have to have experience to get the job and you have to know how to do stuff before you can get the job. But how are you going to get the experience if you've never had the job before, right? But we have this way of thinking in North America in particular, where if we're new at something, then we just, oh, I don't know. Oh, well, I don't have the credibility. Oh, well, I can't do this, right? And so we start to lose trust in ourselves. Even if you've been in business for 15 years and this is just the next iteration, or you're making a tiny tweak. This is one of the things that I help my clients with. It doesn't matter how long you've been in business. When something new happens, it takes a minute to trust yourself. It takes a minute to tap into your intuition to know. Or maybe you make the knowing decision, right? You tap into your intuition, you make a big decision. I'm going to move in this direction in my business now. But now all the little tiny decisions underneath that, you start to have trouble trusting yourself because you don't know. Oh, I don't know how to do this. I've never done this before. But again, part of being an entrepreneur is creating. I guarantee you, those of you who love entrepreneurship, even if you also sometimes hate it, part of what you love about it is the variety, is the no limitations, is the newness of it all. The fact that you can create anything you want, that you can create, and you probably have created something that didn't exist before. There's lots of business coaches out there, but there's no business coach like me, right? Laurie Smith is a speaking coach. There are speaking coaches out there, but nobody is like Laurie. Nobody is exactly like Laurie. She does it in her own specific way. So you're always creating something new, is my point. And I think sometimes getting back to intuition, I'm going to get to clarity in a second, getting back to intuition, I think sometimes it's hard to trust that. As an intuitive, I sometimes have a hard time trusting myself when I'm doing something new or when something really fucking matters, right? Because it's like, okay, I think I know, but do I really know? And that's where I call my intuitive friends and my intuitive coaches and say, okay, here's where I am. This is what I'm setting on. You know, what's your take? Where can you help me know this instead of just think this, or know it instead of wonder? And that's where I think we can really help each other, whether you're a coach, whether you're just a person, a member of a community, whatever. So when it's hard, another thing that I think makes it hard to trust your intuition when you're in business is that it may be a muscle that you haven't flexed, that you haven't practiced with. One of my favorite intuitive development exercises to do is to, and do this around something that doesn't have a lot of importance. So maybe even like, so one of the ways that I like to suggest it is to set aside 30 minutes to an hour where you have no agenda. In fact, your agenda is no agenda. And tap into your intuition, and you can just take a few deep breaths, right? If you have a specific way that you like to meditate or tap in and be centered, that's great. You can do those things. But I think if nothing else, just take a few deep breaths and then ask yourself, what is the best thing for me to do right now? And then follow that answer. It might be cook dinner. It might be read a book. It might be call your friend. It might be reach out to a client, right? But I think it's important to set it up where you're not putting anything that has real stakes, a real stake on the line, and you're giving yourself permission to, does it really matter what you do with an hour of your day? Trust your intuition to guide you in the direction of where you need to go. Maybe you need to go to a coffee shop, right? Maybe it's time to take a walk. Maybe you need to pet your cat, whatever it is. Little by little, asking that part of you and then listening to it and following through and going, okay, I hear you. You're telling me to make dinner. I'm going to make dinner. That helps you develop a deeper relationship with your intuition, and it helps you trust it more. Because a lot of times your intuition is going to take you somewhere where you're not quite sure why. But when you learn what does it feel like in my body to trust this and to just do the thing that I'm being told to do by myself, it gets easier and easier and easier to listen. And then the other thing I think is in business, the other reason that I think we oftentimes have a hard time trusting our intuition is because we think business is all mental. A lot of people think there's no place for intuition in business. And that's why I call myself an intuitive business coach. That's why I talk about intuition a lot. That's why I tell people that one of my greatest values is about running your business on your own damn terms and creating a business that works for you, just like life, right? What makes one person happy does not make another person happy. You have to follow your own unique business path. And when we think that in order to follow our own unique business path, or in order to be successful, whatever success means to you, we can only use our brain. Or my friends who are bleeding hearts and all they do is use their hearts and nothing else, they're missing the other half. You have to use both. And what your intuition, sorry, my nose is itching, which means this is speaking to somebody. What your intuition does so beautifully is it makes it neither heart nor head, and oftentimes makes it both, and allows you to move forward in the way that is best for you in that moment. But I do think that we're conditioned to think that business is more logical and more mental and more strategic than intuitive. And if you go back and read, for those of you who are looking for inspiration, go read some biographies of people who have created things that nobody could have imagined, like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was a super cerebral guy, right? But he also went and studied in India. He used his intuition all the time. Had he not relied on his intuition, he never would have gotten as far as he did. He would not have created the things that he did because he trusted that process. And so my point is, Sometimes it's hard to trust your intuition, but there are ways that you can develop that using that for example, the exercise I just shared with you. But the truth is, the answers are inside you. And so when you're stuck in lack of clarity, and I want to talk a little more about what happens when you have lack of clarity or when you haven't made a decision or where you're mid-process. I'm going to talk about that here in a second, but just know that everyone has an intuition, everyone has an inner knowing, and the answers are inside you. And sometimes the answers inside you are saying, go here, seek out this person, hire a coach, go here, hire this VA I'm hiring a VA right now, right? Like she or he may know the best way to do certain things. I don't have to know those things, but I do have to know to take the right step to bring on the right person on my team to create that skill set so that that skill set that I don't have or don't care to develop is on my team. Right? So you're into it. So when I say the answers are inside you, it includes the ability to find the answers that aren't inside you. Right? But at the end of the day, that still means the answers are inside you. There's a beautiful Rumi quote about that. So the answers are within. It's not always easy to trust yourself for many, many, many reasons when you run your business. But the more that you can learn to work with your intuition, you will learn to trust yourself. And you will learn to trust yourself to make decisions even if you don't have the whole plan. And I think that's the space where a lot of people sit is, I know I need to do X. I don't know how, but I know this is my decision. Great. When you make that decision, then you move down the pathway one more step or two more steps towards the next little nugget or breadcrumb that will bring you to the how, that will bring you to the thing that you've decided about. So don't let yourself, I'm going to speak out of both sides of my mouth here in a second, which I love to do. And my cat is supporting us right now. Don't let yourself sit in the energy of I don't know just because you only know a piece of it. I'm going to say that again. Don't let yourself sit and get stuck in the energy of I don't know, or to declare or decide for yourself that you don't know just because you only know one piece of it. Okay, I'm going to pause for questions. Let me know if that makes sense, and I may just give you an example in case it doesn't. Yes. When I was talking about just to get an entry-level job, you have to have experience in the industry. It's a vicious cycle, I know. And I think that permeates our society in that idea, that concept permeates our society in ways that we don't even know. But I do think one of the ways that it does permeate our society and our mindsets is around, oh, well, if I've never done something before, then maybe I can't do it. Or if I've never done something before, that means I don't know how to do it. And therefore I can't, or therefore the only way I can do it is to hire somebody else. Or maybe the only way I can do it is to study and to become an expert or to know everything that I think I need to know in order to move forward. And that's not always the case. If you're going to do surgery, yes, please go do and study. But in business, a lot of times we think we need that, certificate or proper training or 75 years of experience before we can do something. And oftentimes what I've learned is the best learning I've gotten in entrepreneurship is just by doing something and seeing how it works and then taking it from there. There's something in our society that wants us to be safe, and in our brains, right? Because survival of the fittest, and back in caveman days, there were actual lions out there that, so our brains are still though working in that way around protecting ourselves from, terrible tragedy. But terrible tragedy isn't like I do alive and nobody likes it. That's not a terrible, it's fine. I'm never going to know if nobody's going to like it if I don't just do it. And then if people don't like it, I get to decide what I want to do with that information. And also who's to say if people didn't like it, right? So when you are, so I'm going to move a little bit now into clarity. And I've touched on this a little bit just as I've been talking, and now it's 3:33. I think it's interesting that I started at 3:03 and it's now 3:33. Loving the 3 energy. And there are 3 people on live right now. So when you're running a business, you have so many decisions to make, and they can be teeny tiny ones, right? How many times a day am I going to post my social media? How many am I going to call this person today or tomorrow? Am I going to follow up with so-and-so? What are my prices going to be? And then they can be really big. What's my strategy? Who do I serve? Am I going to hire someone? I personally find that it's a lot easier to make some of the big decisions than the little ones. And it can be very easy. This is just me. Some people are the opposite. It can be very easy for me to get pulled into a detail, and details are not my specialty, to get pulled down a rabbit hole of details because, ooh, I'm not sure if I want to do this, and then that thing affects this, and then should I, but maybe I need to decide this before I decide that. And then I just never actually make a decision. But there are so many different decisions that we have to make when we're running a business. And what I find, and I'm going to talk today about some of the bigger decisions, but this can apply to across the board. What I find with myself, particularly if I look at myself over the years, I've been in business almost 4 years. And when I think about like the pathway that I went through and the decisions that I made and sort of how I made decisions and how I felt about those decisions. And then I see this in my clients and my colleagues as well, that when we make a decision, or let's say, let me think of an example. Let's say I'm going to, okay, so I have one-on-one clients and I also have a group coaching program. Let's say that I'm gonna take this group coaching program and I feel as though, you know, I've run it a few times, I've loved it. I wanna make some changes to it though. And I feel like what I wanna do is, let me think of an example. I want to make it so that I can teach it to, okay, here's an example. This is what I did between the 2020 version and the 2021 version of my group. As I said, the way that I had set it up for 2020 was beautiful and I loved it, but it really only allowed me to teach a small group of people, like 10 or less. It was ideally set up the way that I had structured it, and I had given people some one-on-one sessions in addition to the group. It really only worked because I had less than 10 people and my workload was set up that I really couldn't have handled more than 10 people in that group because I was giving everybody one-on-one sessions as well. And when you look at my calendar, between my one-on-one conversations with my existing one-on-one clients and then the one-on-one calls I was doing with my group and then the group calls I was doing, I would have maxed out had I had more than 10 people in that group. And so what I did when I moved from the 2020 version to the 2021 version is I said, I want to do something to change it so that I can open up and serve more people. Because that's the point of a group program anyway, right? For me anyway, I wanted to be able to serve more people. And I still wanted to be able to orchestrate it in a way that still felt like a community, that people still felt like, you know, they weren't just a number of hundreds and running everything virtually and like it was an online course. There was something for me about being able to find that, keep the community and keep the small group feel and keep the ability for me to be easily accessible in the group, but to be able to support more people at a time. Okay. Because my energy, my calendar, my budget, my way of being wasn't really going to enable me to support that many people in the way that it was going to work. So here I am in 2020 and I'm like, that was awesome. I love that group. When I do this again, It needs to be a little different. That's all I knew at that point. And I could have easily said, I don't know. I could have easily said, I don't have clarity. Until I have clarity, I'm not going to run this group again. I don't have clarity because I want to be able to make it scalable, which was a piece of what I wanted to do. But I just mainly I realized that at the end of running that 2020 group, I was maxed out and I wasn't going to be able to serve more people. And my vision for that group was to be able to serve more people. My whole point of creating a group was to be able to take my message and reach more people in a way that's different than my lives, right? Because I can reach tons of people with my lives, and then I can reach fewer people with my one-on-ones. I wanted to create something in between, right? As I was shifting from the 2020 version to the 2021 version, I knew that I wanted to be able to serve more people and that the structure I had in place was going to be basically 10 or less. That's all I knew. And what I find people doing is the way that they judge themselves, the way that they put this in word, is they say, but I don't know. I want to change it, but I don't know. And this is a tiny, tiny, tiny nuance, but it's a super powerful shift to make for yourself. And it's, I can't tell you how many times I've said, take the words I don't know out of your vocabulary. Because the energy of I don't know is I don't know. And it's basically like a statement. It almost implies that forever I do not know. And I think there are lots of other ways to look at, I know this, but I don't know this yet, right? I knew I wanted to serve, I wanted to be able to create a group that felt cohesive and community and everybody could learn, but that was bigger than 10 people. I knew that. I had clarity. I didn't know how yet. But I knew what I wanted to create. And entrepreneurship is nothing if not creative, right? So if you are struggling with clarity around something, I want you to come and use this example and figure out where in the process you are. And just start with that decision. I am in a decision-making process, or I am in a thought process. And the fact that I don't know, to say I don't know is actually not true. The truth is I'm in a thought process. I started it here. I'm now here. The thought process won't be finished until I'm here. But that doesn't mean you don't know. Does that make sense? You're in a thought process. So I love to say things like, I'm in the process of deciding how I want to change my group program. I'm in the process, I'm in a thought, or people who've talked to me know I always say, I have a half-baked thought. I'm mid-thought on this, which means I have started the thought process. I have some clarity and I have some things that I'm still working out. That doesn't mean I don't know. People say, I don't know. And then they say to themselves, to get back to the topic of today, I don't have clarity. I'm lacking clarity. And that, my friends, is a thing that I see spins entrepreneurs out over and over and over and over again. I don't know who I serve. Until I know who I serve, I can't go out there and start marketing my stuff. So I guess I better sit here and figure it all out first and then move forward. It doesn't work that way. You can make it work that way, but you will spend years and years and years in thought before actually taking action. And the truth is, and you know this about life, you learn the most from experiences. You don't have to have it all figured out in order to be able to move forward, okay? You don't have to have it all figured out. Your thought process doesn't have to be final. Now, yeah, before I created my sales page for the 2021 program, I needed to have it mostly figured out, right? But it didn't stop me from reaching out to clients from that group to ask them what worked for them and what didn't. It didn't stop me from having brainstorming conversations with my coach, with my team, with my colleagues around what possible ideas I might consider to restructure the program. And it didn't stop me from continuing to process on it daily and weekly. It was, you know, a thing that I was working on. And I always like to go back to my beautiful artist clients and those of you who are in this community who are artists. You serve us in so many ways. I love to use this as an example because an artist doesn't say, I don't know how to paint this painting. But they may not know what it's going to look like in the end. Those are two very different things. If an artist is in the middle of painting something and they stop to go to sleep or to go eat, and someone says, well, what's it going to look like at the end? They have a choice to say, I don't know. But is that really a fair description of the situation? The truth is they haven't finished it yet, and it gets created as they go, right? So to say I don't know means that something's wrong with you, right? Means that you have to figure something out before you can take more action. I have to sit and decide what my painting's going to be. Now, I know that some people paint like landscapes or whatever, but I guarantee you, even if you're painting something that you know generally what you want the end result to look like, it still becomes what it becomes over time, right? As you paint it. And I know my beautiful abstract artists, and I've had really this is one of the reasons why I love working with artists, because I learned so much about life and business from just the way that you create. And I'm getting chills all over the place because you sit down to paint your painting and whatever comes out is what is created. So one of my favorite phrases is your business is a work of art. So my group program is a work of art. And the fact that I wanted to improve it every time doesn't mean I don't know, and doesn't mean I did it wrong 3 times before the 4th time or 2 times before the 3rd time happened. Doesn't mean any of that was wrong. It's a creative process. It evolves over time. There are different iterations. It's a thought process. I'm mid-thought. I'm in a process, a creation process. It doesn't mean you don't know. It's still being created. And even once I guarantee you, I'll run it a 4th time and then I'll change it again, not change it again, but I'll iterate it again. I'll evolve it again. It's called evolve for a reason, right? Doesn't mean you don't know. So stop saying I have no clarity. Stop saying I don't know. Where in your business, where in your life are you telling yourself, oh, I need to get clarity on this. I don't have clarity on this. I need to make a decision. I need help making a decision. I don't know this, right? I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, those aren't accurate words to describe the situation. Somebody asks me, you know, about the tax law. Yeah, I don't know it, right? If they ask me some obscure thing about the tax law, I don't know. That's appropriate description of, I could also, by the way, Google it or ask someone, right? But that's when like, I don't know makes sense. But we overuse that phrase and we overuse lack of clarity. How many times have you like talked to another entrepreneur and they're like, well, I still need clarity around A, B, and C. And again, it's not to say that that's not true, but it just means that's where you're going in the future. There's nothing wrong with where you are right now. This is all part of the journey. Creating is part of the journey. Okay, I'm gonna pause for questions. Let me know how this is resonating with you. Let me know if you disagree with me, let me know how this is sitting, what questions you have before I wrap up here. So where I'm going with this, yeah, I love the power of 3 too. Where I'm going with this is when we talk about intuition and clarity in our business, knowing that you have the ability to intuitively tap in, that the answers are within, and that in the present moment, you really aren't intended to know your next 75 steps. Just your next step, step and a half, 2 steps. Or maybe you know you want to create X. I know I want to create the next iteration of my group program. And I know this is how I specifically want it to be changed. This is how I want it to feel. This is how I want it to work better for me as the person running the program. But as I go through that creative process to evolve it to the next iteration, I may make other changes. I may actually decide that I want to go back exactly to the way that I did it before. Pure creative freedom to do that. I am going through a process to create and decide about what I want to change in what ways. But I still have clarity. And when you shortchange yourself for not having 17 steps of clarity and you only have 3, then you spend your time, this is where the mindset piece kicks in. Then you spend your time focusing on the, what's 17 minus 3? The 14 steps you don't have, instead of focusing on the 3 steps you do have and noting where you are in the process. I acknowledge myself for the fact that I am at step, not that life works this way, but if you could measure your steps, I'm at step 3 of 17 in this process. And I accept and acknowledge where I am. I am in the present moment. I have full clarity on the first 3 steps, and I'm working on clarity for the next step. I'm creating the next step for myself. And here's what I think is so interesting and beautiful and annoying about entrepreneurship, which is how do I want to say this? When we get frustrated with ourselves, we like to judge ourselves for lack of clarity all the time. All the time. I can't tell you how many times I'll sit on a call with a client and they'll say, I have lack of clarity. But then they'll say, but I do know A, B, C, and D. Okay, you don't have lack of clarity. You have clarity. There's just a thing now that we're working through. That doesn't mean you don't have clarity. And again, to say those words and to use the energy of, I don't know, I don't have clarity, I haven't decided yet, all these things spins you out and pulls you down a rabbit hole of, oh shit, if I don't have clarity on this, then I better not do anything else. This is what I see so many people do until I have it all figured out. And you can do it that way, but it takes a long, long, long ass time. And what I'm here to offer is that you have the freedom to experiment in your business, because this is a creative process. Okay, what did I want to say? I think sometimes because we don't have clarity, or we tell ourselves we don't know, which really just means we don't know the long-term, every single step we need to make in the process. Because we don't know, or because we say we don't know, that enables us, A, to stay stuck, B, to get frustrated with ourselves, to decide that something's wrong with us. Maybe I have a mindset problem because I have the inability to make a decision. Bullshit, you're just in the middle of making a decision. You're in the creative process of making a decision. You don't have a decision-making process problem. Some people do, but that's not what this is, right? This example that I'm giving you. But what I find so many times is when we get to this place of the unknown, of the, oh, I have to figure this out, or I have to create it. We get in this place of wanting some formula, wanting some structured process, wanting a black and white answer to give us clarity so that we will know. And then we judge ourselves for not having that. When the truth of the matter is, entrepreneurship by nature is not a structured, formulaic, step-by-step how-to process. People will sell you on the fact that it is, and it's not. Life is not a structured how-to, step-by-step, formulaic process. Business is the same as life. Yes, there are things and ways, and you don't have to recreate the wheel. Okay, and things when it comes to like technology, they're absolutely step by step. Okay. But when you go looking at your business as a one size fits all, step by step, formulaic way of doing things, first off, you miss the boat on the fact that there are millions of ways to do business successfully. Number two, I guarantee you, you didn't start a business to follow a formula. And if you did, then you're probably not doing work that's heart-centered, because I think the reason you all started your business is for a mission reason, right? Because of a purpose, because of a sense of fulfillment, because of a desire to change the world in your own specific way, because of a desire to serve. And yes, of course, you want to make money out of it, and you want to be successful, and you want to be fulfilled, and you want to have, you know, all the things that you want to have in your business. But it's not a formulaic approach. And I actually think if you really sit down and think about it, in those moments when you're looking for the answer, when you want it to be black and white, when you want it to be a formula, the truth is, if you really search your heart, I don't think you want it to be a formula. Yeah, you just want something to be resolved, and you just want to hurry up and make more money and whatever. But the truth is, you don't, because I guarantee you, those of you who are entrepreneurs for the right reasons, I'm not saying you have to love all of entrepreneurship, but you're in it because you are creative. You're in it because you wanted to create something limitless. You wanted to create something out of thin air that had never been done before, even if it looks a little bit on the surface like somebody else's business. You were tired of the rote bullshit that you went through in your corporate career, your previous 9-to-5 career or whatever, right? You actually entered into a space that is limitless and all possibilities and creative and inspirational, and you can create your own rules and you can do whatever you want. And there are people who have broken all the rules, because that's what entrepreneurship is. And so to boil it down to a formula, or to expect yourself to be somewhere to know something that you just haven't created yet, is really not fair. And it misses the boat, and it does not do justice to the beautiful, powerful space that you've entered into as an entrepreneur, to water it down and decide that you're just wrong because you haven't like figured something out yet. The truth is, you're still painting your painting for this particular decision, for this particular aspect of your business, whatever it is, right? The example I've been giving is my group coaching program. So for my group coaching program, I've decided to go back to the canvas and add some new colors, right? I know it needs new colors. I feel like I'd like some of the colors to be in that top right corner. And then I'm just gonna see where it goes, because this is my creation, and then it's going to be what it's going to be. I don't have to know 17 steps ahead of what the next iteration is going to look like. I just have to start. And so when you feel like you have no clarity, when you remember that you have intuition, all the answers are inside you, but some answers aren't intended to be known and answered right now. They're intended to be created. They're intended to be lived into, right? Think back to your like self when you were graduating from high school. Was it important for you then to know what you're going to be, what your life is going to look like now? Is that important? It might be neat to know if you're 18, like I'm 45, to be like, whoa, you know, when I'm 45, this is going to be my life. Okay, cool. But it's not important, because the truth is I couldn't go from 18 to here. I couldn't have started a business and helped people with their businesses before I ever had experience in business and life experience to help people with their mindset and life experience and experience in my own life to know what it feels like to trust your intuition, to be able to channel for other people, right? I didn't have any of those steps. So I couldn't have gone from 18 to 45. I couldn't have done it. could have moved to this island. I could have gotten a scuba diving certification. I could have had fun here, but I couldn't have created this life at 18. Because the life that I have now is the compilation of all the different experiences and skills and whatever and desires and lessons that I've learned. So it's not important. And so again, it's not important always to know what the final version, if there ever is a final version of your painting, is supposed to be. You are mid-thought. You are in the middle of a creative process. You are working through the thing that is in front of you right now. And isn't that the beauty of being an entrepreneur? You have the opportunity, you get to create the next thing. It's not always easy. I don't mean to Pollyanna it. But when we say we don't have clarity, when we say we don't know, I argue that that is not actually true. And I challenge you to notice the places in your life, and in particular in your business, where you're telling yourself you don't know, or that you haven't figured something out yet, or that you don't have clarity, or that, and because basically what's happening with that is then you're implying that something's wrong with you, and you're going to go off and solve the wrong problem. And it's also a distraction. As much as I love mindset work, sometimes people will come to me, I have a money block. No, you don't have a money block. You have an action block. You have a hard time taking out, or whatever it is, right? Whatever the thing is. Mindset work is very powerful, but it needs to be done around the actual problem, the actual source of the challenge that you have in front of you. When you don't know, I argue that you do know. Spend some time with what you do know. Allow yourself to look at it as if you are just in the process of making your painting. That's all. Don't make yourself wrong. Don't decide that you've got 27 mindset issues. Maybe as you allow yourself to create what you're creating, you will find your mindset issues. They're everywhere, right? But you have to work the right one, and that's a little bit of a tangent. But if you're simply allowing yourself to be in the space and the phase of business that you're in, and to allow yourself to say, yep, this is what I'm working on right now, then that's all it is. And there's nothing wrong with where you are right now. And I think that sometimes we don't have the clarity that we desire, but we do have some clarity. And clarity is really just a process. Okay, I am going to wrap. Thank you so much for listening. Please let me know if you're watching the replay how this resonates with you. Let me know if you have questions. Let me know where in your life, where in your business are you telling yourself that you don't know, that you can change the narrative there, that you can change the script, that you can create some space for yourself and relieve some of the pressure on yourself. Because the truth is, you don't have to know everything right now. That's actually not life. And it's certainly not business. The more you can flow with what is, the easier a time you will have being an entrepreneur. And then you will start to really be able to capitalize on that, because that's where real inspiration and innovation and creativity comes from, is from a space of just allowing, right, anything to be. And then bing, 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 the intuitive ideas pop in. But when you sit in that space of I don't know, you have a hard time finding clarity and a hard time listening to your intuition. That's the other thing. When you say I don't know, your subconscious mind's like, okay, we don't know, right? It'll follow your lead. We don't know. We're not supposed to know. She said, I don't know. So change your language, change the narrative, change your mindset around this clarity thing, and focus on what you do know, and allow yourself to be in the space of creation. All right, my friends, I'm sending you so much love. I will see you next Wednesday for our monthly reading. Please, if you know a VA, send them our way, and we'll talk soon. Happy Wednesday.